We're here at Copper State looking at an airplane that, geez, we haven't seen for quite a while, but we're delighted to see one again. This is Airbike, and you're going to hear a bunch more about this from these two gentlemen. I'm Dan Johnson talking with Mike Jefferson and Scott Severin. Mike Jefferson is the new owner of this airplane not so long ago. When did you pick this thing up?
I bought this thing about 2 months ago.
2 months ago.
Yep.
And you flew it here from California is the story.
Yes,
is that
I
a
did.
True story?
Yes, I did.
All right, tell me a little bit about that story, Mike.
It was a great flight. It was kind of long. Took 16 hours to fly here.
16 hours.
3 days. 3 days of flying.
3 days of flying, 16 hours. And where from in California?
We started in Red Bluff, California, which is in the northern San Joaquin Valley.
Okay, so well north of San Francisco?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a pretty good haul down here to Arizona, all right.
Yes, it is.
What motivated you to make the trip, Mike?
Well, I just got my pilot's license and I have about 100 hours of flying in. And we just put this thing together, put a new motor on it, and I was like, let's go fly it somewhere. So I saw the Copper State thing and just thought, you know, I'll come out here and see what it's all about.
Cool, well, good for you. So you got 116 now.
Yes, that's right.
And you'll get probably some more going home, I'm guessing.
Yes, another
right.
16. Hopefully, if the winds are right, we'll get another 16 on the way home.
So I want to shift over to Scott here and just ask a little bit about the history of this particular, not this particular one, but this style of airplane. Scott, you developed this back in, well, back when?
Well, back in the 90s. Of course, Wayne Eisen was really the brainchild and the designer at Team Aircraft. And I was fortunate enough to be able to work with Team for a period of years back then. Team was building the all-wood aircraft, the mid-wing and high-wing tail draggers, and interestingly, wood became harder and harder to find. Good clear spruce, which is what we used in this, and some white pine and some birches, and to get enough of the wood that we needed for the volume and the production we had was becoming more and more of a challenge. So Wayne was thinking, well, you know, maybe we'll do a steel tube fuselage. Well, what do you think? So we tossed it around and, oh, well, let's give it a shot. It was completely out of the box of what Team Aircraft had ever done. It was all wood except for the struts.
And a few
wheels.
aluminum parts, but
Yeah,
no steel, no welded steel to
No,
my experience at all.
Always everything was wood. So it was a great expansion, learning process for Wayne, and then our engineer, Jim Colley, who worked with us on staff. He had good knowledge about steel structures and trusses and all that sort of thing. So it was a real natural fit and a super fun development project there at Team. It was some of the funnest time I ever had in my career was working at Team and putting all this stuff together. And the credit needs to go to Wayne. You know, he was just the consummate designer. And thanks, Wayne.
He's gone now, but he did a lot of great work over many years. So.
You bet. So yeah, I had some influences in the aircraft certainly, and was thrilled to be a part of it.
Now this is an aircraft you sort of ride, whatever, on, not in so much.
The slogan that we came up with is we get on it, not in it. It's an air bike, right?
It is.
That's why we called it an air bike, because you get on it.
Now, Mike, what drew you to this particular airplane? You're a hang glider guy, which is familiar ground for both Scott and I. We both came out of hang gliding, so that's good stuff for us too. But you're a hang glider guy, and you learned how to fly the tugs that tow hang gliders up.
That's
the
right.
Dragonfly, it's called, and there's one that's made very near you right now. And they have SLSA approval and all the right stuff, so they're proper little airplanes, but they're made for that one purpose. So what drew you to this?
Well, I've always liked this design and the looks of it. So, like you said, I learned to fly on a Dragonfly, which is a tail dragger similar to this. And I got my sport pilot's license. And I got 100 hours in a RANS airplane, and then I decided to buy this one instead. So I sold the RANS to get this airplane.
All right.
And when I went to look for one, there was none for sale. But there's a small group on Facebook, and I put on there, hey, I want to buy an air bike, who's got one? I found 3 in the country that would let them go.
Is that right?
Yeah, and the closest one was a guy in Tucson. So I drove to Tucson and put down the money and hauled it back on a boat trailer.
So you kind of brought this airplane back home in a manner of speaking. Tucson's just a little ways that way.
Yeah, it wasn't flyable when I bought it. It was kind of just pieced together. And I took it apart, inspected everything. We put a new motor on it, and it's flying great.
And what motor do you have on here?
This is a Rotax 447.
Okay.
It's air-cooled, so The original engine had a scoop on there, and they just free air cooled it. But this one here has a fan, and the fan blows through.
Okay. What speeds did you make coming over here from Red Bluff, California?
I was cruising about 60 to 65
miles an hour.
Miles per hour.
Okay.
But with a good tailwind, I saw ground speeds of almost 80.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
you may not have that going home, so.
Hopefully I have the winds in my favor. If not, it's going to take a little longer.
That's right. So in this airplane here, I'm looking at the panel edgewise, and it's there's not much there, but you've added another gizmo to it. So tell me a little bit about your instrumentation in this Spartan aircraft.
It came with the EIS system, which monitors all the engine temperatures and stuff, and the RPM. And then up here, we've got the airspeed indicator, which comes out to the pitot tube out the side there.
Okay.
And then we've got right here an altimeter. I had to buy the altimeter, didn't have one. And then I put a handheld radio here, and I rigged the antenna out the back so I get a little better reception.
Okay.
And what else did we do? Oh, and I put an iPhone right here so I can navigate with 4Flight. That's what I use.
Oh, you use 4Flight, okay. Yeah. Well, so that brings this airplane into a modern age that Scott probably didn't quite envision. There were no iPhones back then. There were hardly cell phones back then.
That's true.
So what do you think about what he's done here?
Oh, I think it's fantastic, actually. What a beautiful pairing, an iPhone and an air bike. Does it get much better? But I've got to ask, so what was your route? Tell us about your adventure and your route flying out here.
Okay, well, we started in Red Bluff at the Dragonfly factory there. And then I flew to my hometown, which is just south of San Jose. That was a 4-hour trip.
Okay.
And then from San Jose, California, we flew to Tehachapi in one day. And then
that was a pretty long flight.
It was about 6 hours.
Yeah.
And all across the desert, basically, across the San Joaquin Valley. And then it took one day to get from Tehachapi to here.
Okay. So there's your 3-day trip that you had.
And your average altitudes and your maximum altitudes?
My maximum altitude was 6,500. Once you get about that high, this engine starts slowing down. It doesn't climb much more after that. I'm not sure where it stops, but it slows down about there.
Yeah, right. And your minimum altitude?
Oh, minimum was pretty low at times. low enough to wave to the workers in the fields.
There you go. Pull up to get over the fence.
I don't have a lot of experience flying. I'm a new guy with 100 hours of experience. I'm barely landing it very graciously yet.
Well, let's back up and give you a little more credit than that, because you're a new guy in powered aircraft.
That's true.
But tell me a little bit about your hang gliding and the amount of hours you got there and what you do with that hang glider.
Well, I own a 2-place hang glider, and I teach people to fly in the Bay Area. A lot of people that have taken tandem flights from me have also went on to learn how to fly hang gliders, and hopefully they'll graduate to power planes too, maybe.
But show me how you get in this one.
What I do is I throw my foot over, and then I have to lift my bottom up and set it down in the seat. And I usually leave the seatbelt in there. That way I won't forget to put it on.
Okay, that's valid. There he goes, climbing in. And just kind of jumps into the seat.
But see, now I can't put my feet on the ground.
Oh, yeah, sure, that's a problem.
The seat is stopping my feet.
Yeah, so without those, you could put your feet right down and sort of stand like you do on a bicycle.
Correct.
When you want to get off the seat and just stand astride the frame.
So we'll just add quickly, the bucket seat was a big option that we came up with. And I mean, it was kind of poo-pooed by some of the people at Team. We thought some people might want that comfort and that security of harnessing yourself.
Oh, you knew that, what he just described, you'd heard from people.
The original air bike was you get on it, not in it, and we wanted that small, very minimalist seating so you could straddle it. It was easier to ground handle, it was easy to get in, get out. Right. And Team, Wayne's design philosophy was always minimal and simple, right? Because that always works best. And he would always say, aviation cost by the pound. Well, what weighs more, that bucket seat or the little plywood? Just the essence of Wayne throughout the aircraft.
And Scott, there was something about the frame back here that was different that I thought you should point out to people. If you look carefully, you can I can see it here because I know where I'm looking.
Sure.
But most people would completely miss it. And what's that all about?
Well, this was another fun story at Team, as most of them were. We'd done the jig, we'd done the whole fuselage, and we thought it was beautiful. It was art. And we started. Wayne comes up to me and goes, man, well, actually, I was tasked with finding out our shipping costs ship these things out.
Yeah.
It's a long fuselage, and it costs a lot to ship. So we discussed that. Well, the next morning, Wayne comes over to my desk and goes, "Scott, I want you to come look at something. I might have an idea here." And he goes, "You know, right back here, we've got this, we can put a little socket in there, and we can just, that tube, that top tube of the spine, it'll just ride into a socket. We've got the bolt back there for the diagonal wires. So the bolt exists. We can just use that bolt as a pin to hold the top spine in." And I'm still scratching my head, and I'm going, "Well, okay, Wayne, so what's up with that?" He goes, "Down here on the bottom, we'll just put on these 2 bushings, and we'll weld to that. And after we weld up those bushings, we're going to just cut them off, and through those bushings, we'll put in a bolt." Well, holy cow. So with that, the fuselage is only half its length. We could fold it over and put it in a crate half its size, and you don't lose anything in strength. And if you need to haul it somewhere, if you're out in the field or something, you can take it apart. It's a lot smaller. Again, Wayne's just simple way of thinking and solving problems.
Scott, I want to ask you a question now about the general construction of the airplane. Your experience with Team, of course, you can go through the whole bit. Tell us a little bit about how this airplane is assembled.
Well, of course, the fuselage is a 4130 chromoly fuselage. We looked at doing 1018 steel, which you could have, but 4130, a little more robust, and it made sense for us, we thought. The wings are pretty much Minimax wings.
Okay.
In the center section, the wing connections are at different locations, so they wouldn't plug from a Minimax into here. But structurally, it's a Minimax wing.
But the way it's built from about this point out is sort of the same.
Yeah. Where the struts hook in and everything is the same on all the aircraft. So it's a Minimax wing, principally. And then the struts, a little bit different sizing on the struts. And then the landing gear leg was another beautiful exercise in simplicity. It's again a 4130 leg, and with a nice
angle
cutoff here, an angle cutoff here to spread the loads out of the gear going out. We looked at, in fact, I had suggested to Wayne, let's do a tapered aluminum leg. In Tennessee, we had the Bat Company over in Murfreesboro, and they did a lot of tempering of the aluminum baseball bats, and I thought, well, that would be an easy resource. And go into a nice tapered, a beautiful, elegant, and you know, I got this this look I got from Wayne often. Hey, Scott, that's not simple. The builder, that'll up the price to the consumer, and he won't be able to easily repair it. So we're just going to go with a straight leg, and it's correct answer. It's simplicity, not complexity. I'm real good at complex stuff, making things more complicated.
Most humans are, actually.
Sure.
We tend that direction for whatever reason.
Very elegant landing gear leg, again out of 4130. And then we covered up the front. And our first thought actually was to cover up the whole fuselage.
Yeah, and why not then?
Well, we looked at it and we thought it was beautiful with no covering. And so we left it that way. And in flying it, I found I love the crosswind capability because the wind just blows through it. It's beautiful in crosswinds, and
actually, very little vertical area for side loading. I mean, a little bit up here, but not much, and and the pilot represents about as much as that does. So
And then of course we had the windshield up here, the engine up front. The first engine was a Zenoa, the little G25.
Right,
and the airplane did fine on it. Then we did the Rotax
25 horsepower, as I recall that.
Right.
Yeah.
Then the Rotax 277. In fact, I think the first engine, one of them we mounted upright, but we wound up putting it upside down because you got this nice clean cowl.
Right.
Really helped with the lines of the aircraft. We didn't want the spark plugs on the bottom, but there you go.
They seem to work fine, though. I mean, they've been upside down engines for as long as I can remember in aviation, and it doesn't seem to be a problem.
So it was just not an issue at all. And again, a real elegant motor mount tube. This is just actually like a Quicksilver root tube, a 2-inch square tube that is bolted up, and the engine hangs from it with rubber mounts. Again, very simple.
Simple. That's almost a Wayne Eisen thing, wasn't it? As you've said now a couple of times. If you could make it simpler, it'll probably be better. Not only for you fellas doing the work of preparing it, but for the owner who gets it later and says, well, now I got to do things to it.
Well,
simple is good. Is that right?
That's absolutely, that was Wayne's whole thing. And, you know, a gift to make something, to me, it's difficult to make something very, very simple. It's really a
You got to think much harder about it.
Well, right. And to get to the essence. Another example of that, the wingtip, the wing construction was just the end of the wing is squared off. And I got one of these looks from Wayne. I said, Wayne, let's do something with those wingtips. They're just, he goes, Scott, we do the lengths of plywood, and the wing length is designed around common sizes of wood so that the guy can just buy it. The squared off tip is easy to build so that guys will finish the airplane.
You got to give Wayne a lot of points for his sticking to what he knew worked.
Absolutely, absolutely. So then we did, as an add-on, because it's easy to add on, then we got the wingtips, and we played with different wingtips. The droop wingtips wind up looking nice and are effective. They help the ailerons and the low-speed handling characteristics. So designing an airplane is always give and take and give and take. And when you're collaborating with people, it's just a fun project. It's a fun exercise.
It's clear you enjoyed that experience back when.
Gosh, yes.
Well, we're going to wrap up this video a little bit, Mike, but I want to ask you, is your route going home going to be essentially the same?
It's going to be exactly the same in reverse.
All right. You land at the same places and get fuel again?
That's right.
Why not? You already know the way now.
That's right.
Well, good luck getting back home safely and soundly, and we'll trust that we'll hear more from you about this. Continue with the hang gliding too. Personally, of great interest to me, and obviously all those. How many people have you taken up, did you say?
I've taken over 5,000 tandem flights.
5,000 tandem flights. Now, that may not sound like a lot to some people, but just think about taking 5,000 flights in your airplane, and that puts it in perspective. That's what you do every time. Every time's a pre-flight, every time's checking out somebody.
That's right.
It's a lot of flying, and you've done that safely, you said too.
Yes,
so
sir.
Good on you. Mike, tell us a little bit about how we find you. I know you don't sell this product. That's not what this is about. But if people want to ask you some questions or hopefully come out and do some hang gliding, where do we find you?
Yeah, if you want to come out and do hang gliding or you want to ask me about the air bike, I'm learning as I go. But you can contact me through my website, which is sanfranciscohanggliding.com.
Okay, very good. It's a real joy to be able to look over the team air bike from so many years ago. I enjoyed flying this thing back in the 90s, probably. I don't even remember anymore. Been long enough. Okay, thanks, Mike, for that. And Scott, you're not doing team these days. What are you doing now?
Well, I import Jabiru aircraft from Australia to North America. And we do that in our headquarters is in Denton, Texas, just north of Dallas. Our website is jabarulsa.com.
So if you need something with more seats than this, or you want a little enclosure, you got all that kind of stuff in spades.
If you want to take your dog or build a kit or get a ready-to-fly cross-country touring machine, we can help out.
That's great stuff. So once again, the web address, please?
Is jabarulsa.com.
Okay, that's real easy there. We'll put that up on the screen for everybody. You can find more about Team, you can find more about Jabiru, and lots of other affordable aviation on bydanjohnson.com. Thanks for joining Mike Jefferson, Scott Severin, and myself here at the Ultralight Field of Copper State